Mom, how are you feeling? How are you feeling today, Mom? How is your son?
Be careful right here.
Good morning. How is your son feeling?
How's your father?
Good morning.
How is your father feeling today?
Sir. Guys.
It's absolutely a win. The defense took a really big gamble going to trial on this case. Really, any time that a defendant chooses to go to trial against the federal government, it's a big gamble. They have a lot in their favor, and it really paid off for Combs. The difficulty that I saw for the prosecution in this case was this continued coming back to the idea of there being this criminal enterprise. So there didn't really seem to be any question that Combs was engaging in behavior that we might not like, that certainly might in some instances be criminal. But the question was, could the government really show that there was this criminal enterprise? And that appears to be, and in fact was, where they fell short, because the jury said, no, there's not enough here. So we had the 2 counts of sex trafficking, which he was found not guilty of, and then 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, which he was found guilty of. And the key difference between the two, and the reason why it appears that the jury made the decision that they made, is because with respect to the 2 charges of sex trafficking, there was a requirement that the jury find that the transportation, so to speak, that was forced or coerced, or that some kind of fraud was involved in that. And the jury just did not find that the government met their burden there. They did, however, agree that there was transportation of individuals for the purpose of prostitution, and that's why we see the 2 guilty verdicts on those counts.
Love you, Mr. Agnew. He's amazing, guys. Look at the walk.
Mike from Nightcrawler.
Yeah, go around, Mr. Steele. Yeah, good to see you, my heart. You asked me to go to jail.
Ryan, how do you feel exchanging a caress for one
The number one thing that the defense team did right was they embraced what I call the bad facts, right? So instead of fighting against everything, instead of, taking that awful video from the hotel and saying it's not what you think it is, he's not hurting her, they said, they took responsibility on Combs' behalf and said, we take responsibility for this behavior. This was wrong. This was not right. And in fact, if this case was a domestic abuse case, we wouldn't be sitting here, because he is guilty of that. But members of the jury, let us point you to all the places where the government has not met its burden. And that's where they were clearly very successful. A case like this, it's extremely difficult to ask the jury to not vote with their emotion. And they are not supposed to be voting with their emotion. They're only supposed to be looking at the evidence that was presented to them and making a determination as to whether or not the government met their burden. With respect to the two counts that he was found guilty of, he faces a maximum sentence of 10 years imprisonment with respect to each of those counts. And so the court will have a decision to make in terms of where on the spectrum the sentence should be. And that can be anywhere up to 10 years on each of those counts. And there will be voluminous documents submitted by both sides, arguments in terms of what sentence he should face. And then ultimately the judge is going to make that decision. And then I would absolutely expect an appeal of that sentence, which would accompany any other appeal stemming from the case.